I'm Dr. Rubby, a specialist in men's health, and before we dive in, if you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. Now let's talk about something that might surprise you. Why does prostate health matter so much? Because prostate cancer is one of the most common conditions affecting men. In fact, over the course of a lifetime, a significant percentage of men will face it. That's not a small number. To put this into perspective, imagine a large audience of men, thousands, even hundreds of thousands. Statistically, a sizable portion of them will eventually be diagnosed with prostate cancer at some point in their lives. When you look at it this way, it becomes clear why researchers are constantly looking for ways to reduce that risk. And that brings us to an interesting question. Is there anything within your daily habits that could potentially make a difference? More specifically, could something as simple as ejaculation frequency play a role? It may sound unusual at first, but there's a biological reason researchers became interested in this. The prostate gland has a very specific job. It produces fluid that mixes with sperm during ejaculation. This fluid helps protect and nourish sperm cells. But here's the key point. This fluid doesn't just disappear. It builds up over time between ejaculations. So naturally, scientists began asking, what happens if that fluid sits there for long periods without being released? Could that environment influence prostate health over time? These questions led to several theories, which we'll explore in the next section. Because once you understand how the prostate functions on a basic level, it becomes easier to see why this topic has gained so much attention in recent years. So why would ejaculation frequency have anything to do with prostate health? There are a few leading theories researchers have proposed. The most commonly discussed is something known as the prostate stagnation concept. The idea is fairly simple. If fluid produced by the prostate isn't released regularly, it may remain in the gland for extended periods. Over time, this could potentially allow harmful substances or byproducts to accumulate. Some researchers suggest that this environment might contribute to cellular changes, though it's important to note that this is still a theory, not a proven cause. Another possibility relates to stress. We know that chronic stress can impact many systems in the body, including hormone balance and immune function. Regular sexual activity, including ejaculation, may help reduce stress levels for some individuals. Lower stress could, in turn, support overall health, including prostate health. There's also a theory involving the prostate's internal environment. The prostate relies on certain minerals and compounds, like zinc and citrate, to function properly. Frequent emptying of the gland may help maintain a more balanced internal state, which could support normal cellular activity. Additionally, some researchers have looked at the role of the prostate microbiome, the community of microorganisms that exist within the gland. Regular activity may help maintain a healthier balance in this system as well. Now, it's important to emphasize something here. These are proposed explanations, not definitive answers. They help explain why researchers thought this topic was worth studying, but they don't prove direct cause and effect. That's why long-term studies were needed, to see if patterns over time could reveal anything meaningful. And that's exactly what researchers attempted to do in one of the largest studies on this topic. In the next section, we'll break down how that study was conducted and what makes it so important. To explore this question properly, researchers needed long-term data. Prostate cancer doesn't develop overnight. It's typically a slow-growing condition. That means you need to follow people over many years to see if certain behaviors actually make a difference. One of the most well-known studies on this topic followed tens of thousands of men over nearly 2 decades. Participants were asked detailed questions about their health, lifestyle, and habits. One key question focused on ejaculation frequency, specifically how often they ejaculated during different decades of their lives. For example, they were asked to estimate their average monthly frequency during their 20s, 30s, 40s, and beyond. Now, this type of data relies on memory, which isn't perfect, but with a large enough sample size, patterns can still emerge. Researchers also collected information on other factors that could influence health. This included physical activity, diet, body weight, smoking history, stress levels, and more. By accounting for these variables, they aimed to isolate whether ejaculation frequency itself had any independent association with prostate cancer risk. Another interesting observation from the study was how frequency changed over time. As expected, younger men reported higher frequencies, while older groups showed a noticeable decline. This pattern is completely normal and reflects changes in lifestyle, hormones, and overall health. To analyze the data, participants were grouped into categories based on their reported frequency. For example, some reported lower frequencies, while others reported much higher numbers per month. Researchers then compared these groups over time to see if there were differences in prostate cancer outcomes. By the end of the study period, participants were in their late 50s on average, an age where prostate cancer risk becomes more relevant. In the next section, we'll look at what the results actually showed and what they might mean in practical terms. So what did the researchers actually find? When they analyzed the data, an interesting pattern emerged. Men who reported higher ejaculation frequency, particularly in earlier decades of life, appeared to have a lower likelihood of being diagnosed with certain types of prostate cancer. Specifically, those in the higher frequency group showed about a 20% lower risk of being diagnosed with lower risk forms of prostate cancer compared to those in lower frequency groups. That sounds significant, but it's important to understand the context. This reduction was mainly observed in less aggressive forms of prostate cancer. When it came to more advanced or aggressive cases, the difference was not clearly seen. So, while the findings are interesting, they don't suggest that ejaculation frequency prevents all types of prostate cancer. Another important point is how these groups differed overall. Men with higher reported frequency may also have had other lifestyle factors working in their favor. For example, they might have been more physically active, had better cardiovascular health, or maintained healthier habits overall. Even though researchers tried to adjust for these variables, it's very difficult to account for every possible difference. This is one of the key limitations of observational studies. They can show associations, but they don't prove direct cause and effect. So while the results suggest a potential link, they don't confirm that increasing frequency alone will reduce risk. Still, the findings are valuable. They open the door for further research and help guide future studies on prostate health. In the final section, we'll talk about what this means for you and whether it's something you should act on. So the big question is, should you actually change your behavior based on this information? The honest answer is, there's no need to force anything. While the study was well designed and provided useful insights, it doesn't establish a clear rule that all men should aim for a specific number each month. Health is rarely that simple. It's important to look at the bigger picture. Men who reported higher frequency may also share other characteristics, such as better overall fitness, healthier routines, or stronger relationships. Those factors themselves could contribute to lower risk. So instead of focusing on one number, it's more helpful to think in terms of overall lifestyle. If you're already sexually active and comfortable with your routine, there's no reason to change it out of concern. And if you've been limiting yourself because you thought it might be harmful, current evidence doesn't strongly support that concern. Moderation and balance are key. Your physical health, mental well-being, and daily habits all work together. Things like regular exercise, a balanced diet, managing stress, and routine medical checkups likely play a much bigger role in long-term prostate health. That said, this research does highlight an interesting connection, and it may encourage more discussion and future studies. At the end of the day, the goal isn't to chase a number. It's to support your health in a way that feels sustainable and realistic for you. If you found this topic interesting, there's a lot more to explore when it comes to men's health and prevention strategies. Thanks for spending your time here, and as always, take care of yourself.